arrow rises into a gray October sky. It falls toward a shield wall on a ridge in southern England. Inside that wall stands a king. He has ruled for less than a year. He has just marched his army 300 miles in 11 days. He has already won one impossible battle this year. He will not win this one. The arrow finds him. In the space of a single afternoon, the future of England, its language, its laws, its bloodline, changes forever. This is not simply the story of a battle. It is the story of a king who did everything right and lost anyway. The reason is stranger than anything Hollywood would dare write. By the end of this video, you will understand why 1066 split English history into a before and an after. You will learn why the king who died at Hastings had already won a battle 200 miles away just weeks earlier. You will learn why the most famous arrow in English history may not have been an arrow at all, and you will learn why today saying beef instead of cow means you are speaking the language that 1066 created. This is 1066. The year England had 3 kings, only one walked away. In January of 1066, King Edward the Confessor dies childless. He leaves no clear heir, and 3 powerful men believe the English throne belongs to them. The nobles crown Harold Godwinson, the most powerful earl in England, within a day of Edward's death. 2 other men disagree, violently. William, Duke of Normandy, claims Edward promised him the throne, and that Harold once swore an oath on holy relics to support that claim. Harold Hardrada, King of Norway, is one of the most feared warriors in Europe, a Viking king who once commanded the elite Byzantine Varangian Guard. He believes he has his own claim to England. So, in the summer of 1066, the new king faces 2 invasions from opposite directions, with no way of knowing which will arrive first. All summer, Harold holds his army and fleet on the southern coast, watching for William. Across the channel, William's fleet sits motionless. He needs a southerly wind, and for weeks it does not come. By early September, Harold's situation becomes impossible. His soldiers are farmers who must return home before the harvest fails. He has held them for months. He cannot hold them any longer. He disbands the army and sails his fleet back toward London. 4 days later, the wind changes, not for William, for someone else entirely, from the opposite direction. In the 3rd week of September, Harold Hardrada lands in the north with roughly 300 ships, joined by Tostig, Harold's own brother, exiled the year before, now returning as an invader. Their force moves on York. The local English earls meet them at Fulford. The battle is a disaster. The northern army is destroyed, and York surrenders. Word reaches Harold in the south. The invasion he feared least has struck first, hardest and farthest from where he stands. His army, the one he just disbanded, is scattered across the south. He has 2 choices: wait and rebuild, or force march north immediately. Harold chooses speed, and then he does something that should not have been possible. Harold marches roughly 200 miles to Yorkshire through difficult terrain with no modern roads in 9 to 11 days, a pace that matches forced marches by professional Roman legions on paved roads, except his army is mostly farmers, on dirt tracks in autumn. He arrives so quickly that Hardrada has no idea he is coming. On September 25th, at Stamford Bridge, Harold catches the Vikings completely by surprise. Many of Hardrada's men are not even wearing armor. It was left with the ships, because no English army was thought to be near. The battle is brutal and decisive. Hardrada is killed. Tostig is killed. The Viking army is annihilated. Of roughly 300 ships, only a handful sail home. Harold has just destroyed one of the most feared warriors in Europe in a battle that should have been impossible to win this fast. He has saved England from the north. He has 3 days to celebrate. On September 28th, 3 days after Stamford Bridge, the wind in the Channel finally turns. William's fleet, by some estimates 600 to 700 ships, sails for England and lands at Pevensey completely unopposed. The army that guarded this coast all summer is 200 miles away, exhausted, bleeding from a battle fought 3 days earlier. William fortifies his position and raids the countryside, partly for supplies, partly, historians believe, to provoke Harold into rushing south before he can recover. It works. Harold has just won the battle of his life. His best soldiers are wounded or dead, and the second invasion has landed exactly where he left it undefended. Wait and rebuild on ground of his choosing, or march south with the army he has. He chooses speed again. Harold marches south again, roughly 250 miles in just over 2 weeks, arriving with an army historians believe is smaller and far more exhausted than William's. On the night of October 13th, Harold's army takes position on a ridge near Hastings, now known as Senlac Hill. His infantry, including elite huscarls with massive two-handed axes, form a shield wall along the high ground. If the line holds, William's cavalry cannot break through, and his army, far from Normandy with winter approaching, will eventually have to retreat or starve. On the morning of October 14th, William's army advances. The Battle of Hastings begins. For most of the day, Harold's plan works. The shield wall holds. Norman cavalry charges up the slope and is thrown back again and again. At one point, a rumor spreads that William has been killed, and parts of his army begin to retreat until William removes his helmet and rides his lines to prove he is alive. The shield wall is holding. Then something happens on the English side that should never have happened. In the afternoon, part of Harold's shield wall breaks formation and chases retreating Norman soldiers down the slope. Historians still debate why. Some believe it was a genuine reaction to what looked like a real retreat. Others believe, based on later Norman accounts, that William's forces staged feigned retreats specifically to lure English soldiers out of formation. Either way, the result is the same. Once English soldiers leave the high ground, Norman cavalry turns and cuts them down in the open. The wall, which had held for hours, now has a gap. This happens more than once. Each time, the line grows thinner. Each time, William's combination of cavalry, infantry, and archers, tactics English forces have not faced before, exploits the opening. By late afternoon, the shield wall still stands at its center, around Harold and his household troops. But it is smaller, surrounded on multiple sides, and the Norman archers, whose volleys had been bouncing off raised shields all day, are now told to angle their shots higher, to drop arrows down behind the wall. One of those arrows is about to change English history. The most famous image of Hastings comes from the Bayeux Tapestry, an embroidered cloth made within decades of the battle. In one scene, a figure labeled Harold appears struck in the eye by an arrow. For centuries, this has been the accepted story. Here is what almost nobody tells you. The tapestry has been restored and repaired multiple times, including significant work in the Victorian era. Some historians argue the arrow may have been added or altered during one of these restorations, and that a second figure beside it, shown being cut down by a sword, may be the real depiction of Harold's death. The most iconic image in English history may be in part a 1,000-year-old game of telephone. What is certain is this. By the end of the battle, Harold Godwinson is dead, his body mutilated so badly that, according to some accounts, it can only be identified afterward by his partner, Edith Swanisha, who recognizes marks on his body no one else would know. The king who marched 300 miles in 2 directions in under a month, who destroyed a Viking army in one of the most decisive victories in English history, who held a shield wall for most of a day against a better equipped enemy, is dead on a hillside in Sussex. Arrow or sword, the result is the same. With Harold dead, English resistance collapses. The remaining huscarls fight on around his body until they too are killed. By nightfall, William controls the battlefield. He does not yet control England. It takes several more months before he is crowned King of England in Westminster Abbey on Christmas Day, 1066. Resistance continues in parts of the country for years, but the trajectory of English history has already changed in a single afternoon. Over the following decades, the Norman conquest transforms England. Anglo-Saxon nobles are largely replaced by Norman lords. French becomes the language of the court and the law, while Old English continues among the common people. Two languages side by side for centuries. This is why English has two words for so many basic things. The Anglo-Saxon peasant raised the animal, cow, pig, sheep. The Norman aristocrat ate the meat, beef, pork, mutton. Every time you order a steak, you are tasting the linguistic aftershock of one afternoon near Hastings. The Domesday Book, commissioned by William 20 years later, recorded the ownership of nearly every piece of land in England, administrative control unlike anything else in Europe at the time, and a document historians still use today. England in 1067 was, in almost every meaningful way, a different country than England in 1065. Different rulers, different language at the top of society, a different relationship with continental Europe that would shape English foreign policy for 1,000 years. All of it traces back to a king who did everything right, who won an impossible battle in the north, who marched his exhausted army 300 miles to defend his kingdom a second time, who held his line for most of a day against a better prepared enemy, and who lost in the end to a single moment, a broken formation, an arrow or a sword, a king on a hillside who never saw it coming. 1066. The year England had 3 kings, and the year that decided, in 2 battles 3 weeks and 300 miles apart, what England would become for the next 1,000 years. If this story made you think, leave a comment. Do you think the arrow in the eye really happened, or is it the most famous historical mistake in English history? Subscribe to the Vault of Numbers. Every week, one number, one story history forgot to tell you. The next number in the vault? A king took 300 men to a narrow mountain pass. He knew they would not come back. He went anyway. The vault remains open.